Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Rocket Live. Thank you all so much for joining us here again. Yes, I am finally here. I've been so waiting for this interview for the longest time. I'm so happy to have you on. I have McFarlane Holman on my show today. This is awesome. I have a true rock and roller on here, the punk rock scientist herself. Awesome. I can't wait to. I know. We've been talking about doing this for so long. I mean, I think we started talking about getting you on the show like back in like March or something like that.
Yeah.
Like maybe even before that.
And you scheduled me in, and I had, my schedule changed. And then I tried to get back in, and you had so many people lined up. It was like, whoa, July, dude, you're rocking it.
Oh man, yeah, it's a busy schedule, but I'm so glad we finally have you on. I've been dying to have. I mean, like I said, we've been talking about this forever, like when we met, and so we're definitely going to be getting into all of it. I want to welcome everybody right now who is watching us live, joining us live at this very moment. Feel free to put some comments and questions into the chat, and we will be monitoring that and getting to those as soon as we can. Thank you, everybody who will be watching a replay of this, and also those of you who will be listening to the audio version later on. I also want to send a special shout out to my new opening music, which is provided by the Champagne Charade. Super excited that they allowed and gave me permission to use their song Death Walks at Midnight. So I'm switching it up a little bit and doing some new intro music for a little bit. So thank you all so much for that. I really appreciate you giving me the permission to use that song, because I'm a super big fan of the band, and I love that tune so much. So, and also I do want to thank everybody once again, for everybody who shares the show, subscribes. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this now. And of course, if you can head over to Rocket Growth Agency, Let's Rock Group, and check that out. I've launched a new online group, coaching online peer-to-peer group. So check that out whenever you have the chance. And with that, let's get into it. Karen McFarlane Holman.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. So glad to have you on the show, as I said. And so Karen and I, once again, I say this all the time, I feel like it's been a long list of guests coming on the show with all the cool new people I've met on Clubhouse. And you're definitely one of the most awesome people I've met on Clubhouse. Like, you and I connected like so fast, like on Clubhouse. And I think it's just definitely for our affinity for punk rock and just all things being, being the misfits that we are. And I love your whole, what you're doing. I mean, you're a professor, you're involved in chemistry, you're doing science experiments with kids, you're becoming a TikTok viral star, you're recording music. I mean, you got it all going on.
It is a lot, but I got to say, when people are like, how do you do so much? It's easier than you think. And I think part of it has to do with I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch a lot of movies. So I have to miss out on some things, but it's totally doable.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, you're doing all kinds of stuff. You're involved in a lot of cool creative projects, and you're an educator. You're out there like teaching people some real science, which is really cool. Because I think the first time we met, you're like, I'm punk rock. I'm like the punk rock chemist, and I was like, wait, you got to explain this, and that's when you started telling me about all the things you're doing and the chemistry for kids programs that you run, and then I've been just, following all your awesome videos that you've been making. So let's start a little bit with, because I mean, you did a TEDx talk. I mean, you have really done a lot of just very cool, interesting things over your career. And I would love to talk a little bit about that. So why don't we start with the chemistry side of things? Because what got you involved in chemistry and science in the first place?
Yeah, I got to say, it was instilled with me. And one of my earliest memories is when my dad was making the rounds. There are 4 of us kids. He's making the rounds to give us a good night story. And I was like 6 years old. And he comes in and he's like, Karen, what story do you want to read tonight? And I was like, no, tell me about what happens with food after Shag eats it. Shag was our dog. And I'm positive my dad was just like, now I'm a parent. And so I know he was probably so tired and he just wanted to like pull out a book and just read the book. But he's an awesome dad. So he went and got paper and he drew out the whole digestive tract and he taught me all that. And I went to bed that night just looking at the ceiling going, that was the best goodnight story ever. And I have just loved science ever since then for my whole life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because for me, I mean, I always liked science, but it's definitely a subject I struggled with in school for sure. It was like I was good until it was time to take the test. Then that was when I didn't do so well.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I did. So first off, elementary school, we had basically no science. Yeah. I didn't like the science classes in middle school. And high school, there was 1, maybe 2 science classes I liked. So it's just one of those things that's part of my mission of, going on Instagram and TikTok and all this is I want to make science fun and accessible and that it is something that is attainable and doable by anyone.
Yeah, which I think is really cool because I love how you really break it down and watching your videos. See, even it's like, and I know that, a lot of stuff you do, but like is aimed at, definitely kids, younger people, but like I watch your videos. I'm like, I can totally understand this. Like, and I'm a grown adult, but like, I love the way you present it though. And like, just total, like, you're not like using every like big dictionary term and trying to sound like the smartest person. Like you're really just breaking it down in a level that, not only can kids understand, but like anybody can absolutely understand.
Mm-hmm. I love that you say that because that's really my goal. And part of it, I got that from when I was first had this idea for this kids science program. And I went live every day on Facebook talking about science a year ago. It was last July. And adults were like, this is so cool. And when I started this kids science program, the adults were like, I want to do it too. And some parents and adults did do it. Like they were there every week with their kids because they liked it. So that gave me really good feedback that this is something that really is for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, listen, science is for everyone. I mean, everybody should know about the basic workings of everything going on around them from, I mean, there's so much when you think about chemistry. I mean, it's in our everyday lives, dealing with chemistry, dealing with science of things. Like I saw recently too, even like how you explain, like, because I know you're in the Oregon area. And that's, I saw your whole video on how you explain the recent like heat wave that you just had out there like about a week or so ago. And even I thought that was like, wow, you broke that down better than how they broke it down like on the news.
Well, and that might be because I'm not a meteorologist. I'm interested in it, but I don't know, so what I did is I did some research. I went into the NOAA website. I looked in National Geographic, and then I put it all together for myself. and then I shared it to people. So it's not like I know that much, but I do know how to go out and find out things and then assimilate them and share them in a way that I think is accessible.
Yeah, and I think another great example of that too is and you've been on TikTok, and I've had a few people on here who have also been using TikTok. I mean, I use TikTok as a way to send out a message and have some fun. I mean, I put out a pretty good mix of different things, and I'm just having fun with it, and experimenting with it and stuff. But I love how you're using it too. Like, you're also doing it, like putting out some really good information, having fun with it. And most recently, you did a really great video on the vaccine and magnets, which was a really cool thing to do, because it was like a great way of really dispelling like kind of what's going on and all that. But that video has taken off. I mean, that's got something, I think last time I checked, it was like 1.5 million views or something like that. It's like way up there.
Yeah. Yeah, that has been and still continues to be a wild ride. I gotta say, I had no idea it would go hog wild so quickly. And this is where it started. So I'm not going out there as a proponent for any vaccines,
right,
for or against. Like, that's not my job. I feel like that's a really personal decision, and everything about getting vaccinated, like, that's we don't go around telling all about our medical histories and all that unless we want to. So I feel like that's everyone's decision. But there was something that started happening that did have to do with science and was something I know a lot about. And that is because my PhD is in the chemistry of metals. And I teach about metals, and I teach about iron, and I teach about magnetism. And we're talking for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so when people started talking about how the vaccines were magnetizing you, I could not be quiet about it. I had to make a video. And this was the trick, is on TikTok, you're only allowed 60 seconds.
Right.
So I had to hone in on what could I talk about in just 60 seconds that gets my point across, this thing that I was burning inside of me. I had to tell people about. And it was essentially that it is impossible for the volume of the vaccine to go into you to hold any amount of something magnetic that would cause a magnet to stick. That was the basis of what I was saying. But wow. So I did it in the afternoon. I woke up the next morning, 44,000 views and hundreds of seething comments.
I know, I've read some of the comments.
Just all this stuff. And it triggered me. Like, I felt, that never happened to me before.
Right.
Now that there are, I don't know, thousands of comments and a million views and all that. And I see those comments and I can just kind of chuckle or whatever. And other people are commenting on them. I don't even have to comment or say anything back.
Yeah,
there are people coming in.
Yeah, you could just take a back seat to it and just let them work it out on its own, But yeah, I started because I was interested in seeing like what, I mean, I figured I'd assume some of the comments you'd be getting even before opening, once I started looking at the comments, and I'm just like literally scrolling and shaking my head and like laughing and be like, oh my God. Like, and it's just, people never cease to amaze me, but it is a really great video because it just totally in real time disproves something like basically that's an urban legend, and you know how easy it is for things to just spread like wildfire on the internet. So if it's on the internet, it must be true. So of course, like there no substantiated fact, it's just on the internet, so therefore it's true. But I even loved at the end too with like the whole like magnet, and you're like, but a stick or a piece of tape works really well. I highly encourage everybody who's listening and watching this to go check out Karen's TikTok channel, which is over at Science Rockstar. If you go over to TikTok, because not only does she have that video, which is the one that's like really gone viral, but she's got other really fun videos on there too that are just like I said, I feel like the way you present science and do experiments and share things like that it's just really great, and you will learn something every time. I mean, even like your heat dome thing, I learned about, so I thought that was just cool. So I definitely recommend that. So if you're, and especially too with your kids, like this is something you can actually watch with your kids too.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to do a live science experiment for the people who get to
I was
see
just
us?
going to say, because you were teasing a little live science experiment, so I'd love to see it. And I just want to say hey to Chris Roush, kick-ass rock star.
Hey,
Thanks,
yes.
brother. You're kick-ass. Thanks for checking in. Yes, let's do a live science experiment. I'm chomping at the bit.
Yeah, let's do. Okay. So and that's kind of like, I brought up my water here and I'm like, oh,
Dude,
casually sipping my water. Well,
science.
if you'll notice, I'm trying to put like a light background behind it. This is has a beautiful blue hue to it. And that is because I took this glass of water and I took my butterfly pea flower tea and I put some of those flowers in it. And that extracts some of the beautiful pigment from these flowers in here. So when it's just regular water and there's nothing else in it, it has this beautiful blue color. And I'm trying to, can you see that it's blue? I'm just trying to.
I can see it. I can see it. When I can see the backlight coming through. I can see it's blue.
Yeah. Okay, right on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have some lime here. And by the way, you can do a similar kind of thing if you have a gin and tonic. Lots of people do this. So, but just with water, or if you make it into a tea, if it's hot and it's steeping in there. And then you're like, ooh, I want to get a little bit of my yummy lime, or you could do this with lemon as well. So, and my lime is sinking to the bottom. Okay, gosh, I hope you can see.
I can see.
Yeah, there we go. And it turns this lovely purple, pink color.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So look at that. So for anybody who is listening to this, basically what Karen's done is take a glass of water that was a blue hue and used lime, mixed it in, and now it is purple.
Yes. So this is another thing that is done with these butterfly pea flowers is there's a Harry Potter restaurant bar. I think it's in New York City.
They just opened one in New York. I haven't been there yet, but they did just open it. Yeah. And
they do something like this and they call it magic, and they have some cool way of describing it and all of that. But this is essentially just an acid-base reaction that's going on. And one of the videos that I did is that I took this, do you know those contraptions you can buy, SodaStream, and it injects carbon dioxide into water? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So essentially what I did is I took this glass of blue, so it's just regular water, and put the pea flowers in it, so it was blue, and then I put it in the SodaStream, and the SodaStream injected carbon dioxide into it.
Right.
And it turned pink.
Oh,
and
wow.
So how I tied that together was acidification of oceans, that if we have a lot more carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, it does dissolve into natural waters and it does acidify our oceans. So I talked about it in the context of that and showing how that color change, then you can actually see how it does become more acidic.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I love too, it's like, so that's just using all like natural stuff. You're not using any food color or dyes or anything like that, which I think is, which a lot of times you would think, oh, well, you just add some food coloring to that, but that's not it. I mean, you're literally using a tea and then a lime.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and that's actually one of the things. So in my kids science program called Science Rockstar Kids, that is one of the pillars, I guess I'll call it, is that you don't need a bunch of fancy equipment. You don't need to buy expensive instruments or anything like that, that you can do a bunch of really cool science with everyday household non-toxic items. And you can have a lot of fun with it.
That's awesome. So, and when you're doing this too, so I know that, you're doing these experiments and things, and you've got the chemistry for kids. Now with chemistry for kids, just to understand. So is that a program that you run and then kids come in, or is that something you offer to schools? Like, how does chemistry for kids work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a brand new program that I just ran for the first time this past school year. So it just finished, and it was specifically for families coming in to start. So it could expand. And I have actually talked to various institutions about what could be done there. But so far, it's just been families, which was really nice during the height of the pandemic when kids, first off, they weren't even going into school, and interacting with people at first, at least where I lived. But they weren't getting any hands-on science. Like if they were going in person, one of the first things that gets dropped is science. And so this was giving them a way that they could do a science experiment every week, and they could explore and ask questions and do all that hands-on stuff that's so important.
And if people want to find more information about that, that's at Science Rockstars Kids, right? .com?
Or Science Rockstar Kids, yep.
Yeah, Science Rockstar Kids, yes.com. And on there you can find all the information about this program that Karen has set up, because it is very cool. And there's just I've seen previews of it, and I gotta tell you, if my daughters were probably a little bit younger, actually a lot younger, I would probably do this for them. But now they're just, they do their own thing. But it's a very cool thing, and I think it was very neat that it was something that you sort of developed, and there was a need for this during, and the pandemic isn't over, but I mean, it seems like a lot more people are going back to school now and all that. But this is still something what actually I can see like still be thriving inside of schools, because I mean, I mean, why wouldn't somebody or even a teacher have someone come in and you can beam in and do your thing? And I think it's a great program.
Yeah, I think it's really important for elementary school ages, which is part of why I chose it. So I'm a chemistry professor, and I've been teaching college for 20 years. But when I had the chance to think about, wow, I could start this business, I was on a leave of absence from my position at the university. And I thought, okay, what age group really needs this? There's high school I could do, there's middle school I could do, there's elementary I could do. And I ended up choosing elementary school for a couple of reasons. And one of them actually had to do with the fact that these studies show, and this is specifically for girls, I don't mean to leave boys out, but there are studies that show that girls around the age of 5 or 6, up until then, they're super excited about science and engineering and math, and they don't see any restrictions, and they are super stoked about it. And what happens over the years? There is this decline. So this result by the National Science Foundation, I think it was 75% of these young girls really liked it. And then if you look at women in those careers, and especially if you include physics, engineering, it's down. It can be as low as 10% in some of those, or less. So there's something that's happening. And so I felt strongly like, wow, I can do this for all kids, but if I can have an impact on any of those girls that might have lost interest, I will be so happy. And that's really it. It's doing it. It's feeling confident about it. It's feeling like, wow, this is everywhere. And science is applicable to any of your interests, anything. And you saw my guitar talking about the science of the guitar. And, so it's not just a nerdy sciencey thing. I mean, I loved the nerdy sciencey part, but some people don't, but it's really everywhere. So.
Yeah. But I think that you said something key there, which was the data suggested that, when girls get into it at a younger age, it seems to, they're very interested in it. It seems like they kind of stick with it, even though there's a little bit of decline. But it's like you had your own experience where you were saying at 6, like you were interested in it, and you stuck with it. You stuck all the way through it. And and I'm wondering if it just has to do with culture itself and society as a whole, but sort of the distractions that happen, or they just find that they're interested in other things and may not find it as a viable profession. I'm wondering what you bring up a really good question as to why specifically, women don't stick with it past high school, and then even in college, and so on and so forth as a professional career. And it's definitely, and I'm sure it's probably many variable factors there.
Yeah. There's definitely sometimes it's mentors. They don't see themselves as a scientist,
Right.
and sometimes it's the support that they do or don't get, and it can also just be, oh, I don't want to be an engineer. And so this is the thing. My mission, I'm not out there to make everyone into a scientist. Like they don't need to be scientists. That's totally okay. But I will say that just like with writing and speaking, if you can get some really good fundamental scientific processes in you, that will serve you in the rest of your life in anything. So it's important.
I agree with that. That's actually a really cool statement to make, because it's like learning basic common sense and survival skills. Like, it's like, hey, listen, you don't need to become a martial arts expert to learn how to, like, do some moves to escape and survive something, and basic survival things. Like, you don't have to become a survivalist and go live in the woods and do this to, like, learn some basic survival skills if you're in a situation where you need to escape or survive, whatever it is. And I feel like that this is the same kind of a thing where, like, listen, having a basic understanding of science and how it works in your every single day, to use it in situations that, who knows what you'll need it for, but like having a most basic understanding of it, it could be life-saving. It could help someone in need. It could help explain a question to something that you don't have an answer for. I think we've all gotten like, well, I'll just Google it. And it's like, yeah, it's cool, but it's not always the right answer, right? It's not always like it's going to lead you to a video on YouTube that may not exactly be the right answer.
Exactly. Yeah. And knowing how to go. And I always look at various sources, and then you can kind of start seeing what's going on, and that one of them might be a little bit incorrect. And then you can kind of bring it all together. So all of that it is really crucial.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, just knowing to, like, not combine like certain cleaning agents with one another, it's like that mistake, and it's like you gas yourself right out of the house. Like,
yeah.
That's funny.
Another myth that I'm looking to dispel, and I'm still doing more research on it, but this whole idea of right brain, left brain.
Right.
So first off, that's been shown to just not be true. And that a lot of times people say, oh, I'm not a science person. I'm not an analytical person. I'm a creative type. I'm an artist. And it's like, no, you need creativity to do science.
Thank you. I was just, you make such a great point. Yes. I love this statement, because this is so true. I mean, you and I both deal with this, and I get it a lot from people saying, well, of course you could do this, Chris. You're creative. You're in music. You were in film and video for years. Like, of course you could do all this. And I'm like, that doesn't mean that, that we're not creative, I mean, that you can't be creative. It's like everybody is creative in their own way. Just because I do these things and, you make music, which we're going to talk about, like, doesn't mean other stuff can't function. It also means that doesn't mean that you can't do those things either. Or, like, you don't even have, it's like, if you don't have to be making music, you don't have to be making videos or films. Like, you could just be like, writing or creating graphics, or I don't, there's 1,000 ways to create, and I think even what you're doing, like, science, like, there are, I guess, absolutes in science as far as mathematics go, but then there's other things that are, like, really based on theory and experimentation. And I don't know, it may work, it may not. That's why we experiment, to prove hypotheses and theories, which are born out of creativity and thinking about, like, I wonder if this would work, or here's a question. Well, the only way to solve it is to figure it out and test it. And that's creativity.
Totally. Oh yeah. And trying to figure out new approaches, or coming in from different experiences, different perspectives, creativity.
Yeah. I mean, creativity, like what you get as an end product, whatever that is still comes out of the same framework and line of thinking, whether it's, I want to write a song, I want to make a movie, I want to make a podcast, I want to paint a picture. I want to write a book. I want to do a science experiment. I want to solve this problem. I want to, I don't know, fix my car, like whatever that is. Like, you know, I want to build this thing. Engineering, like, are you kidding me? Like, of course you need, like, there's absolutes in science with that, but like, you know, to dream up how something is built or constructed, like that's take creativity and vision. Like that's not just, you know, like it doesn't get to that unless you start with like an idea, which is what creativity is at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. And you bring up the engineering and you think about architects and how they try to fold in beauty with the architecture and with the engineering. Like I just love stuff like that.
So we do have a question from Thomas McFarlane. Tell us about Dr. Mae Jemison. Am I saying that right?
Yes. So this Mae Jemison, Dr. Mae Jemison, she was the first woman of color in space, and she was a dancer, and we're talking high level Alvin Ailey production, like high level dancer, where she could have chosen that as her career. But she got her degree in chemical engineering from Stanford. And she then went on and got her MD and then became an astronaut with NASA. So she is one of my heroes, just absolutely amazing. And so now she does a lot of talks, goes around, and she's a proponent for where are we going into the future and bringing together creativity and science, everything that we've been talking about. So I'm guessing that's why that's my brother, Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah. So that might be why he brought that up, because she does really hold those two things dear together and how important they are.
Yeah. And that is a great example. And because it's blending creativity once again with, I mean, listen, it all, like anybody we've been talking about it. It's like, if you say you're not creative, I'm going to call you a liar, because you are. You just maybe haven't figured out what your creativity is. But a lot of times people don't often think about the things that they're doing as creative, you know, like they're already doing it. And it's just recognizing it for creativity. But a lot of times people's definition of creativity is, you know, art, like, you know, what the end product is, which is, you know, sort of the big ones: video, music, audio, you know, painting, books, like, but there's other forms of creative expression that people don't always identify as creative expression. Yeah.
And as a segue, there was National Women's Month is February, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, so there was.
It's one of those months.
Yeah. So my point is that there were some people that I knew in the Pacific Northwest. Some women put together this every day. They were trying to get all of the women artists, musicians that they knew to write a song about a woman that inspired them. And so I wrote a song about Mae Jemison, and I recorded it. And it's the first time I had ever performed solo in my life. I've always been in a band. So that was a little bit unnerving and outside of my comfort zone. But I did do that. And as my thank you to Mae Jemison, I doubt she's ever seen it. I should try to share it with her.
I was just going to say, you should send it to her.
Yeah.
You have to send that to her. I mean, you know, who wouldn't be flattered about having a song written about them?
Seriously.
You should absolutely send that to her. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to give you 1 week to send this to her. And I'm going to follow up with you in 1 week to make sure you've done it. Thomas is watching. Thomas, you're going to help me out. She's got 1 week to send this off to her.
Yes.
We're both holding her accountable.
All right. I will do it.
Yes. All right. Good. Very good. And everybody else who's watched this and listened to this and is going to watch the replay has also heard it. So everybody's going to be flooding your inbox a week from today. Did you send the song? Did you send the song? So there you go.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to see the song, it's on my YouTube channel. I have 2 YouTube channels, but it's on my one called Professor K Science.
Awesome. And then once again, too, in the show notes, and if you're watching this live too, in the posts, there's a link to all of Karen's links in there. So you can access her website, her YouTube channels, her TikTok, all of that. And if you're listening, once again, in the show notes, all these links will be there. So you'll be able to check it all out, including the link to Hot Sheets. Yes, hot sheets. Yeah. So let's talk about hot sheets because this is your punk band, man. I love this. I write all the time. I'm like, I wish I was in this band. I want to be in this band. Like every time you guys post stuff, I get such like band envy because I haven't played in a band since like 2000, but I see other people being in bands and I'm like, oh man, I want to be in a band again. But you guys look like you're having so much fun every time you post all the videos. And so talk about hot sheets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Hot Sheets is my all-girl punk band. And so I've been playing in punk bands since 1995. Long time, with hardly any breaks in there. I'm always moving from one band to another, or if I'm not in a band, I'm like trying to put together a band.
Like a true musician.
There's a point I'm like, oh, I should take a break. And then I found like all my evenings were spent like calling people, hey, do you play drums or whatever? So anyway, and over this time, so my very first band was with my roommate Kelly and Tim, and we were a girl-fronted band, but we weren't an all-girl band. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I just thought, and I think it's because L7 was really, when I saw L7, this all-girl like hard rock grunge band from the 90s. I mean, they're still around. I see them play, but that's when they started, late 80s. And I saw them and I was so inspired. And so I think I just thought, how cool would it be to have an all-girl band? So years go by, decades go by, still don't have an all-girl band. And it's really difficult to find a punk rock drummer who's female. It's just rare. And especially where I live, in Salem, Oregon. So I thought, I'm just gonna learn drums and I'll be the drummer. You know, even though I'm a guitarist, if this is how it's gonna happen, I gotta make it happen.
Right. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. So I started getting drum lessons from my friend Doug. Well, at the very first drum lesson, he starts talking about this band he's starting with this other friend, David. And I was like, oh, tell me more. Do you need a guitarist? So I ended up, that just essentially got me into this band that was forming, City of Pieces. I'm still in that band and I love that band. And that band's like awesome. But at the same time, you know, I still like thinking, I want this all-girl band. Okay, well, my dear friend Jamie, one time we're at a show, we're at a bar, and I'm like, oh, I wish, you know, I'm talking about it again. And she slams down her beer and she's like, fuck it, I'll be your drummer. And so she went out and she got a drum kit, she learned drums, and then our friend Jessica was like, oh, I want to start playing bass. And so Hot Sheets was born. And that was 5 years ago.
Wow. I can't believe it's been 5 years. Holy, yeah. You guys are, I listened to what you guys have and you were just in the studio. I was watching all the behind the scenes social posts of you going into the studio. So when is that coming out?
Yeah. So we do have one EP out that came out a couple of years ago. And then, yes, we're freshly out of the studio. And so right now it's in the mixing phase. So rough mix and then, so finalized. So I'm guessing just because the studio is there's some updates. So they're going to have to take some extra time. So I'm guessing it'll be about 6 weeks. All
right. So new Hot Sheets music on the way.
Yes. And really I'm so proud of this. This is some good work coming out. So
that's cool. Yeah. And it looks like you guys are having a ton of fun, which is the point, which is the point. That's why you do music.
Absolutely. And it is a blast. I love those women.
Nice. Yeah. And they seem like a great group. And as I've said, I've watched a lot of the videos that you guys have posted from practices and I saw some of the stuff that you did at the recent show that you just did, which was, I guess one of your first shows in many years, or at least over a year because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
that was really cool. So I definitely urge everybody to, once again, use the links in the show notes here, and you can check out Hot Sheets. The link is right there in Karen's link tree. Also, you can go visit our website. All that information is there. Including as well. So we just keep moving from project to project. So we've got science, chemistry. You're doing that. You're doing Hot Sheets, the band. another band, and now also you also have not now. I mean, you've been doing it, but you also have a podcast called 10 Bestest.
Yes.
Bestest.
I know.
So yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. So that podcast I co-host with my dear friend Brian Hart, and we've been doing it for almost 5 years. So here's another 5-year long project for whatever reason. Yeah. And this show it's been such an interesting ride because this is the premise of the show. Is every week Brian and I each come in with 5 cool things, and we call them our cool sheets, which is sort of first it's a play on the name Hot Sheets, my band, right. But it's also like, oh, this is some cool shit that I want to share with you. And then we can use this euphemism because the podcast does air on our local radio station. So we can't swear on it. But in any case, we each come in with 5 things, and they can be anything. Like I could come in and I could talk about butterfly pea flower tea as a cool sheet. I could talk about your, this rocket live that you do. I could talk about one of my other podcasts. Like it could be anything. And so, and we only have 2 minutes each to just plow through it, and each person gets the floor. There's no interruption. And so essentially we're going boom, 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 back and forth, 5 things each. So by the end of the about half an hour, the listener has learned about 10 new cool things. And we're really concise with it so that people can go, oh, wow, I want to find out more. And then of course we have show notes. Or if they're not interested, they only have to wait 2 minutes, and then it's on to the next thing. And so we are about to hit our 200th episode.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I know. So if you do the math, we have talked about 2,000 things over the last 5 years. I know.
That's awesome.
And I really, if you would have asked me that when we started, how long I thought it would last, I would think by the time we got to 2,000, it'd be like, there's nothing left. I got nothing. But it actually has become easier, if that makes any sense. So
it does make sense, because I feel like once you start doing it, you're much more open to things that could be cool. And you're like, oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah. I wouldn't have really noticed it before as cool. But now that you're doing the show, I think your perception is wider and more sensitive. So therefore,
I have these feelers.
Exactly. The cool sheet antenna is up.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's great, and that's a really cool topic. And you know what, too, I also find things like that to be also very accessible to audiences, because when people are looking for podcasts to listen to, quick things like that, I think people want to, I know myself personally, when I listen to podcasts, there are certain kind of podcasts I gravitate more towards too, and they usually have that sort of that list format, or they're talking about one thing in particular, and whether it's a movie or a show. I mean, I'm a giant nerd, so give me a good Star Wars podcast any day, and I'll sit there and I'll be completely fine. But I love music shows where they're talking about music and music lists, and so I think that this is cool, because this is real things in our world that we are existing with. And I think that that's pretty wild, because it does I think for the listener, it makes you a little more perceptive to oh, wow, that is a cool thing. And then you start going on that treasure hunt, and then other things kind of start to pop out to you that maybe normally would have just kind of fallen to the wayside. You just wouldn't have seen them.
Yeah, totally. And I love that term you just used, treasure hunt.
Yeah.
So that's, we help you on a treasure hunt, or just, yeah. So people who listen, our listeners, when we get them, they love it.
Yeah.
The problem has just been growing our listenership. So if any of you, if this even gains us one new person, that would be awesome. We love what we do. We just do it because it's fun, and we hope people like it. So
well, definitely check out 10 Bestest, which you can get at any platform. I mean, basically wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yep. We are everywhere.
Yeah. So make sure if you dig that kind of material, which I don't know who doesn't, because it's everybody always wants to know about some cool stuff. It's just an easy thing to listen to. this is a good one to check out. So make sure you go check out 10 Bestest wherever you're listening to podcasts, and hit that subscribe button, will you? So that way you keep getting notified every time there's a new episode. See, I'll do that for you. That's
Please, yes, thank you.
But yeah, this is great. I feel like I can't even believe it's been like 45 minutes already. I mean, I feel like you and I could go on and on and on forever and ever talking about this. I will ask you. Oh, we have another comment. Oh, here we go. Melissa Stetcher. Sorry, I'm late. How do we support? I'm happy to be a listener. Well, there you go, Melissa. Go to anywhere you listen to podcasts and check out 10 Bestest. Hit the subscribe button on that, and then that way you can be a supporter.
Yep. And if you go to 10bestest.com, that can guide you to any of those places. We make it really easy for you to go there. We make it really easy for people to rate and review, which is also really important, as you know, Chris. So
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And once again, all these links that we've been talking about are all accessible through the show notes here. You can click on it. You'll see it says Karen's links, and that'll take you to her link tree where all her links are nice and neatly categorized for you to click on and support anything that she's doing, from the Science Rockstar Kids to her personal page to Hot Sheets to watching all the awesome videos that she's doing on TikTok, and as we just discussed, her podcast 10 Bestest. So make sure you click on those links and and support, man. You gotta support each other. And right below her link is my link too. So under there you can see all my stuff as well.
Yes, and I was going to say, and you have the Buy Me a Coffee, and so people should do that.
I do have the Buy Me a Coffee. It's something I recently just set up because I was like, everybody started asking me about it, and for a little bit I was kind of like, I got so many other ways, but you know what? I was like, I might as well do it. And you know what? And I got to be honest with you, it does help. So I would definitely ask that, if you would like to show any kind of support, if you like the content that you listen to on here, and I would be really helpful if you could go over to buymeacoffee.com/Chris C. Vaglio, and also this link is in the show notes as well. You can click on that and feel free to buy me a coffee. And then also when you go over to 10 Bestest, they have a Buy Me a Coffee. Buy them a coffee too, for crying out loud. We all got bills to pay. So, that little bit, believe me, it goes such a long way. more than you know.
It really does. It really does.
I think anybody involved in podcasting and any kind of creativity understands that even the littlest tiny bit goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even just the feeling in our heart, like even if you're just giving a little bit of money, like they went out of their way to do that. It's so amazing.
It's exactly, yeah. It's sometimes it's more about the actual feeling that people actually are like listening and like, really finding value out of whatever it is that we're creating. That goes a lot further a lot of times. So, and I also always say too, another great way to show your support for anybody's creative projects. If you are a fan of someone's project, the best way to support them is honestly reshare links, talk about it in posts, because it's a great way to expose the people in your network to the things that you like, such as this show. So if you find value in this show, in the interview that the conversation Karen and I have been having today, please feel free to reshare that to your network. And as always, hit that subscribe button, because that way you get updated every single time new episodes are dropped, whether you're listening to this on the audio version or you're watching this on YouTube or the other places where I broadcast. Not only helps me grow the show, which is important, but more importantly, it helps the guests that I have on to reach a wider audience and talk about their message and share the things that they're doing. So that to me is one of the ultimate forms of support that you could absolutely do, besides hitting the Buy Me a Coffee button.
Chris, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, this was so great. And thanks so much for beaming in from Hawaii during your vacation. I appreciate the time that you took today to hang out and talk to us. And, it's just so exciting to finally have you on. And once again, I feel like we've been talking about doing this forever and ever. So it's nice that we were finally able to make it happen and do this little conversation. And I hope everybody out there really, really go and watch the stuff that Karen's doing and get involved in it, because it is very cool. It's fun. And it's kind of like take your pick. It's like, do you want music? Do you want science? Do you want podcasts? Like, and also like your TEDx talk is on YouTube as well. And those, you have 2 of them that you can watch, that's awesome. Like, you are just loaded with like all kinds of cool accomplishments. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I feel like there's a book coming next, right? A book.
It could happen.
Like a punk rock science textbook or something like that. Like a man, like science for punks.
Ooh.
The book.
Yeah, the book. And then the movie.
Yeah, and it's like totally like done like punk rock zine style. And it's just all science experiments for punks.
Yeah, yeah. But not the dangerous kind.
Not the dangerous kind. That's in the follow-up book that you have to be like 18 and older to buy or something like that.
I was just the one you get on the dark web.
Yeah, the dark web.
That was written by my doppelganger or whatever.
You have to come up with a doppelganger pen name to do the evil book.
Right. Ooh, the evil Karen. We haven't talked about the whole Karen thing.
Oh, there's an evil Karen. Oh my gosh.
Well, that whole Karen thing going around.
Right. Oh, right.
Yeah. So I keep going, I swear I'm not an evil Karen. And anyway, people who know me know that I am not.
Yeah. I'm not that Karen. I'm the punk rock Karen.
Yes.
Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And once again, for everybody else, please go out, check out all of the links as we've been talking about. They're all in the show notes listed below, and wherever you're watching or listening to this, they're in there. So click on them, use them, show your support. Really appreciate all of you. As a reminder, we will not be broadcasting next week because I will be on a vacation. I am actually taking a vacation, and I will not be doing a live show next Tuesday, but we will be back the following Tuesday with a live show with another great guest. So definitely tune in 2 Tuesdays from now. We'll be back live for sure. For everybody who's so dedicated and following me and coming on Tuesdays and hanging out and watching the show, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much for all the support, and it definitely does not go unnoticed. Any final words, Karen, before we wrap it up?
I just want to remind everyone that even if you don't think you're a scientist, you are, and that it is so much fun to just delve into parts of you and curiosity that you might have and learn more about the world around you. And for my fellow scientists, like, rock on.
Rock on. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you all once again. We'll see you in 2 Tuesdays from now. And remember, always be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it. Yeah. See you, everyone.